Women who look younger possess a special spiritual quality. As Carl Jung once said, the soul is the secret of the body's vitality. Have you ever wondered why some women seem to defy the passage of time, radiating a youthfulness that goes far beyond skincare or genetics? In today's journey on spiritual wisdom, we'll uncover the deeper truth that looking younger is not just about appearance, but about a special spiritual quality shining through. This is about inner alignment, the radiance of the soul, and the power of energy that transforms the way we age. Do you believe that the state of your spirit can shape how the world sees you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know your perspective. 1. Inner soul shapes. Outer appearance. These women's youthful appearance is not the result of genetics, expensive skincare, or surgical procedures, but is born from a deeper source, a spiritual radiance rooted in the very essence of the soul. Carl Jung often emphasized that the psyche is not separate from the body, but profoundly shapes it. And when inner vitality flows freely, it manifests outwardly as beauty and presence. The soul becomes the hidden artist painting light upon the skin, giving rise to a glow that defies chronological time. A woman who carries peace within herself, who has allowed spirituality and spiritual awakening to guide her path, will naturally radiate energy that shields her from the withering effects of age. This radiance is not superficial, but an emanation of harmony between body, mind, and spirit, a frequency that alters not only how she feels, but also how the world perceives her. The body is like a mirror reflecting the truth of the soul. A woman burdened by bitterness, regret, or unresolved wounds will inevitably bear the marks of those inner shadows upon her face and posture. Wrinkles etched with sorrow, eyes dulled by disappointment, or a heaviness in her presence speak of an unhealed spirit. By contrast, a woman who has embraced forgiveness, gratitude, and love shines differently. Her eyes sparkle with clarity, her smile is alive with authenticity, and even her silence carries warmth and vitality. This is the law of energy, just as the still waters reflect the brightness of the moon. The human body reflects the state of the soul. When the soul is awakened and nourished by spirituality, beauty becomes ageless, flowing from the inside out and touching everything around it. Jung's insight invites us to see that what we call aging is not merely biological decline, but often the result of disconnection from the soul. Stress, resentment, and unprocessed emotions accelerate decay, while peace, compassion, and inner freedom slow it down. Modern science confirms this through the study of epigenetics, showing how thoughts, emotions, and spiritual states can influence genetic expression, turning health and vitality on or off. In this light, the so-called fountain of youth is not a myth, but a state of alignment where the psyche and spirit feed life force into the body, sustaining vitality even in later years. Women who look younger than their age are living proof of this truth, for they have learned to cultivate inner harmony, making their energy field a shield against time itself. This lesson extends beyond women, for men too can embody this timeless vitality by nurturing their souls. To live with spirituality is to release the heavy weights of anger, fear, and resentment, and instead embrace compassion, clarity, and a higher sense of purpose. Every unresolved pain marks the body, but every act of healing restores youthfulness. The choice is whether one allows the years to be written in sorrow upon the face, or allows the eternal light within to radiate outward. Spiritual awakening reveals that beauty, health, and presence are not surface qualities, but reflections of the soul's state. Looking young is not the ultimate aim. It is the natural consequence of living in alignment with the spirit, where age loses its power and timeless energy becomes the true expression of who you are. Comment below. My soul shapes my beauty. If you believe that true radiance comes from within. 2. Spiritual alignment against time. They carry within them a unique energy field, an unseen aura that shields them from the destructive effects of time. And this timelessness does not arise from fighting against aging, but from living in harmony with consciousness itself, from embracing life rather than resisting it. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that is precisely the secret these women embody. For their radiance is not a mask, but the natural glow of alignment between soul and spirit, the kind of spiritual wisdom that transforms the body into a living reflection of inner peace. Their beauty is not the fleeting charm of cosmetics or surgical interventions, but a living testimony that spirituality becomes the fountain of youth. That spiritual awakening is the real shield against decay, and that the soul has the power to shape the face more profoundly than any external treatment ever could. They do not cling desperately to the past, nor fear the future. Instead, they choose to rest in the present moment, to carry love instead of bitterness, forgiveness instead of resentment, and serenity instead of fear. And because of this choice, their eyes shine with compassion, their smile carries resilience, and their very presence makes others feel lighter. People spend fortunes on creams, surgeries, and endless products in search of youth. Yet those who appear truly timeless are the ones who cultivate their inner landscape, cleanse their thoughts, nurture their hearts, and maintain an energy field filled with light. As the scriptures remind us, a cheerful heart is good medicine, and indeed, when the spirit is nourished and unburdened, the body follows, radiating vitality and grace, making age appear irrelevant. The irony is that many of these women have endured deep hardships, yet instead of letting pain harden them, they allow suffering to become the fire that refines them, the crucible that shapes them into beings of wisdom and empathy. Jung himself observed, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and this truth plays out in their lives. For they have walked through valleys of loss and trials, yet emerged with a softer heart, a freer spirit, and a light that no shadow could extinguish. Their timelessness is not the absence of age, but the transcendence of it, a beauty born not from denial, but from transformation, not from clinging, but from surrendering. To encounter such a woman is to witness a living embodiment of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, for she reveals that when the soul is aligned with the eternal, time loses its grip. Her youthful aura is not an illusion, but the natural effect of authenticity, acceptance, and joy. As Rumi said, "The soul is here for its own joy." And when the soul embraces that joy, the body becomes a vessel of radiance, vitality, and grace. 3. Archetype of radiant femininity. There are women who carry within them a timeless radiance that transcends physical beauty. And Carl Jung called this the eternal feminine archetype, a living expression of spirituality and spiritual growth that makes their presence unforgettable. Their glow is not found in cosmetics or the chase of youth, but in the harmony of their inner world. where wisdom meets childlike curiosity, where laughter carries both innocence and depth. When you look into their eyes, you see not just youth, but a knowing spirit that has embraced life with openness. When you hear their voice, you feel the softness of someone who has turned wounds into wisdom and pain into compassion. As Jung reminded us, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And these women reflect that privilege in every gesture, every smile, every spark of energy that surrounds them. Think of the women you have met who seem untouched by time. A grandmother whose hair has turned silver, yet whose joy makes her feel younger than the youngest in the room. A friend in her 40s or 50s whose eyes sparkle with the hunger to learn, to explore, to live with curiosity. Their secret is not a product you can buy, but a state of being they carry, cultivated through presence, passion, and alignment with their soul. In our modern world, where beauty is sold in jars and filters, these women remind us of a higher truth, that beauty is a vibration and youth is a state of spirit. Their glow comes from choosing forgiveness instead of bitterness, curiosity instead of resignation, love instead of fear. They are proof that the soul does not wrinkle and that inner light can outshine the marks of age. Jung taught that archetypes live within us all, shaping the way we experience life, and the eternal feminine archetype is the embodiment of creativity, compassion, care, and intuition. A woman who nurtures these qualities shines without trying. Her presence softens the atmosphere, and her energy uplifts those around her. This is why, when you encounter such a woman, you sense her beauty long before you notice her face, because her aura speaks louder than appearances. Spirituality is the soil from which this radiance grows. Through spiritual growth, a woman learns to embrace silence, to forgive, to celebrate, and to live with a heart that is both strong and tender. A cheerful heart is good medicine, says the proverb. And indeed, the medicine of the soul reflects on the body, turning life itself into an elixir of youth. The truth is simple. Women who look younger are not clinging to age, but living in alignment with life. They find joy in small things, remain open to new experiences, and allow their spirit to keep learning, laughing, and loving. A woman who paints, who dances, who tends her garden, who dreams and dares is watering her soul, and her soul, in return, keeps her glowing. True beauty is not about resisting time, but about living so fully that time bows to the spirit. And the lesson is there for all of us. If you wish to stay radiant, care for your soul as much as you care for your body. Choose daily practices that feed your spirit of gratitude, meditation, prayer, kindness, creativity, and you will notice how your energy shifts, how your eyes brighten, how your presence becomes magnetic. This is the secret Jung recognized, the spiritual quality that makes a woman ageless. To embody the eternal feminine by becoming fully alive, fully present, and fully true to who you are. Do you see yourself in the archetype of radiant femininity? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I embody radiant femininity, and I believe. 4. Transformation through shadow integration. Instead of hiding their wounds or burying their pain, women who radiate timeless beauty turn their suffering into wisdom, allowing every scar to become a source of strength rather than a silent weight that accelerates aging. Carl Jung's teaching on the shadow reveals that the darkness we repress, anger, fear, grief, and unhealed memories does not disappear. It festers, draining vitality and dulling the soul. But those who look younger than their years are often the ones who dare to face this shadow directly, integrating it instead of denying it. And this act of courage releases a hidden light within them that shines far beyond the surface. Through practices like active imagination, they enter into dialogue with their unconscious, giving voice to what has long been silenced, and in doing so, they dissolve the poisons of denial that harden the heart and weary the body. The result of this inner alchemy is a wholeness that radiates outward as resilience and beauty, a glow no cosmetic procedure could ever replicate. Consider a woman who has endured betrayal, illness, or loss. While many would allow bitterness to consume them, she chose to ask what the pain came to teach, and with time, her energy field became magnetic. She does not appear younger because she has avoided suffering, but because she has transformed suffering into spiritual wisdom, and that wisdom makes her presence unforgettable. Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And this truth explains why some people seem to defy time itself. Their faces carry peace, their voices carry depth, and their eyes reveal a clarity that makes them glow from the inside out. This is not only a lesson about women, but a mirror for men as well. Every unresolved conflict, every grief left unspoken, and every truth buried in silence becomes an invisible weight that ages us long before our time. But each moment of honesty, each confrontation with the shadow, and each step into integration restores a piece of vitality we thought was lost. Aging, then, is not simply a matter of years, but of the heaviness we carry or release. Those who embrace their shadow do not escape time, but they walk through it lighter, freer, and more radiant. This is why women who look younger possess that special spiritual quality. They embody the courage to face themselves fully, to turn darkness into light and pain into power, reminding us all that the fountain of youth is not found in resisting age, but in embracing the wholeness of the soul. 5. Living in sacred time. Kairos. Women who carry within them the gift of sacred time live not under the weight of linear clocks, but within a flow that Carl Jung would have recognized as a deeper dimension of the psyche, where consciousness itself reshapes how the body ages. Instead of fighting against time as an enemy, they befriend it, allowing each moment to unfold in rhythm with the soul's expansion rather than the relentless ticking of Chronos. This state of being, known by the Greeks as kairos, is a spiritual wisdom that slows the outer signs of aging because the inner life is so fully alive, so present, that vitality radiates outward as youthfulness. Jung's words echo here. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And these women embody that privilege with grace, showing us that true beauty is born of alignment with the self, not resistance against the years. You may have noticed women in their 40s, 50s, or beyond who seem untouched by time, not because they hide it, but because they transcend it. They carry themselves with serenity, a kind of light-hearted joy, and an energy that feels ageless, while younger women often appear burdened and weary under the weight of stress, conflict, and fear. Their secret is not in cosmetics or superficial interventions, but in a spiritual awakening that teaches them to live fully in the now, anchored in presence, unshaken by the past, or anxious about the future. When the soul rests in this eternal dimension, the body reflects that inner harmony with softness, vitality, and light. Science supports this wisdom. stress and fear accelerate aging, while peace, gratitude, and love protect and preserve youth. What Jung intuited in psychology is confirmed in modern biology. The inner state shapes the outer form, and consciousness becomes the architect of appearance. Living in Kairos transforms aging into a sacred unfolding rather than a slow decline. Each line on the face becomes an imprint of wisdom, each gray hair a mark of dignity, and paradoxically, this acceptance makes them appear younger still. For youth is not the absence of years, but the presence of spirit, and when the soul flows freely, the body responds with grace. Their eyes reveal curiosity, playfulness, and compassion, the qualities of the eternal soul that never grow old. This is the spiritual quality that makes them magnetic, a beauty that does not fade with time but deepens, for it springs not from the surface but from the inexhaustible well of being. Jung would have seen in this the emergence of the self, the wholeness that transcends masks and reveals the radiance of the eternal within the temporary. Such women are living proof that youth is not just a number, but an energy, not a surface, but a depth. Their presence reminds us that time is not merely something to be measured, but something to be entered. And when we live in sacred time, the body becomes a mirror of the soul's eternal dance. Have you ever truly lived in sacred time, where every moment feels meaningful and alive? If you've experienced this, share your story in the comments below so others can be inspired. If not, simply write, "I will live in Kairos," to begin your journey into this timeless flow today. 6. Emotional and spiritual wholeness. Women who carry an aura of timeless youth often reveal a deeper truth that Carl Jung described through individuation, the journey toward inner wholeness. When light and shadow, masculine and feminine energies exist in balance rather than in conflict, they create an inner harmony that radiates outward. This balance is not about denying struggles, but about embracing them. And it is precisely this spiritual integration that shines through their features. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And the women who seem untouched by time are those who have turned their unconscious conflicts into conscious wisdom, allowing peace to replace inner turmoil. Their serenity does not come from avoiding pain, but from transforming it. And in doing so, they protect themselves from the stress that ages both body and spirit. In everyday life, you can recognize this quality in women who may not fit the commercial image of beauty, yet captivate those around them with an undeniable radiance. A mother who has raised children with grace, a leader who guides with both strength and kindness, a woman who has weathered loss, yet still smiles with warmth. All of them show that true beauty is born of depth. Their eyes reveal clarity, their presence inspires calm, and their laughter holds the resilience of someone who has embraced life fully without letting its hardships break her. This glow is not bought or manufactured. It is the fruit of spirituality and spiritual growth, of a heart that remains open and a mind that has learned to bend without shattering. Modern science may explain how chronic stress accelerates aging through hormones like cortisol. Yet Jung saw that the deeper source of aging lies in unresolved emotions, unacknowledged wounds, and the refusal to face one's shadow. Women who look younger are not those who avoid suffering, but those who feel it fully and release it, allowing it to become compassion instead of bitterness, wisdom instead of regret. Emotional maturity means you can dive into life's intensity without drowning in it, and this emotional strength becomes an invisible shield against the wear and tear of time. As the old saying goes, she who learns to bend will not break, and this flexibility allows them to age with grace, carrying the vitality of the spirit into every stage of life. To see their secret clearly is to understand that the glow of youth is not an external mask, but an inner alignment. By embracing both softness and strength, both nurturing and discipline, they create a harmony that radiates beyond physical age. This is the essence of spirituality in practice, not as lofty philosophy, but as a lived reality, where every challenge is transformed into wisdom and every scar into beauty. Their lives remind us that youth is not about resisting time, but about walking gracefully with it, allowing spiritual growth to keep the soul alive and the heart radiant. When you nurture wholeness within, you begin to shine in a way that no clock can measure, and the beauty others admire in them becomes the beauty that flows naturally through you. 7. Science supports the mystery. There are women who seem to defy the natural course of time, carrying within them a light that does not fade with age, and modern science is beginning to reveal the truth behind what Carl Jung and ancient wisdom always understood. The soul shapes the body, and the state of the spirit is written upon the face. Studies in epigenetics and telomeres show that inner calm, joy, gratitude, and a life filled with meaning slow down cellular aging, while stress, unresolved wounds, and constant anxiety speed it up like a silent rust eating away at the body. When a woman cultivates peace within herself, when she lives in harmony with her own truth, her biology follows, and her appearance reflects a youthful radiance that no expensive cream or surgery could ever duplicate. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And this is exactly the hidden quality you witness in such women. They are not fighting against time. They are flowing with it, transmuting every wound into wisdom and every burden into strength, which is why their presence feels lighter, fresher, and more magnetic than their years suggest. Instead of carrying bitterness in their bones or resentment in their eyes, they have learned the art of releasing what no longer serves them, replacing heaviness with forgiveness and emptiness with gratitude. And this inner atmosphere transforms them on a cellular level. A face shaped by constant stress grows hardened, but a face shaped by inner joy softens with grace, and in that softness lies true beauty. It is not vanity, but spirituality that keeps them young. Not denial of age, but an awakening to the timeless energy flowing through them. Look closely, and you will notice their eyes sparkle with curiosity rather than dull resignation. Their laughter is unburdened, and their movements carry an openness that makes them appear years younger than their peers. It is as if their very energy field acts as a shield against the erosion of time, a living testimony to the power of spirit over matter. For men observing this, it becomes clear that this is not just a feminine secret, but a universal principle. Your inner state becomes your outer reality. If stress can corrode your strength, then peace can preserve it. If anger can age you, then forgiveness can renew you. If emptiness can weigh you down, then meaning can lift you up. These women are not anomalies of genetics. They are proof of what spirituality and spiritual awakening can do when lived daily. Their youthful appearance is not only a blessing for themselves, but also a mirror for others. inviting you to reflect on your own life, asking whether you carry stress like a burden or peace like a shield. To truly stay youthful is not to resist the passing of years, but to embody a timeless vitality that grows stronger the more you awaken to who you really are. And this truth is written not only in ancient wisdom, but now etched into the very science of our cells. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss more insights where science and spiritual wisdom meet. Comment below. My spirit is radiant and timeless. If you believe in this mystery. 8. The symbolic life and timeless beauty. What makes certain women appear younger than their years is not found in genetics, beauty routines, or the fleeting promises of cosmetic interventions, but in something far more profound that Carl Jung described as the radiance of the soul. Their secret lies in living what Jung called a symbolic life, where every moment, whether filled with joy or sorrow, is seen as sacred and transformative. This way of living creates a presence that is magnetic, a beauty that cannot be captured by mirrors or photographs because it is not bound by time. Their faces reveal serenity, their eyes carry light, and their energy feels youthful because they have learned to embrace life with meaning. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And women who live symbolically embody this truth with every breath. Their youthfulness is less a matter of outward appearance and more a reflection of inner alignment, of individuation, where all opposites, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, find balance within the soul. This harmony creates a spiritual wisdom that radiates outward, making them appear ageless. Their beauty is not fragile or dependent on trends. It is rooted in authenticity, in the courage to accept themselves fully. As Coco Chanel said, beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself. And these women prove that true elegance and vitality flow from within, from the soul's alignment with its eternal essence. Unlike a society that endlessly chases youth through products, treatments, and false promises, these women do not resist time, they walk with it. Their vitality comes from acceptance rather than denial, forgiveness rather than bitterness, gratitude rather than complaint. Every wrinkle becomes a symbol of laughter, tears, or wisdom, turning the passage of time into art rather than decay. Rumi's words capture this truth perfectly. The wound is the place where the light enters you, and these women shine because they have allowed their wounds to become portals of light. Carl Jung taught that what lies in the unconscious shapes our outer reality, and women who live with this awareness transform not only themselves, but also the way others see them. Their presence reminds us that timeless beauty is not a privilege of the few, but a gift available to anyone who chooses to awaken. When life is lived symbolically, when meaning is drawn from every moment, the soul aligns with eternity, and the body reflects that truth. What you are truly seeing in these women is not simply youth. It is spiritual awakening, the eternal radiance of a soul in harmony with itself. Throughout this video, we've uncovered Carl Jung's profound insight that the radiance of youthfulness is not merely a matter of appearance, but a reflection of a deeper spiritual quality, an alignment of the soul that shines through the body. True vitality comes from the energy you carry, the peace you cultivate within, and the light you allow to guide your path. As you go forward, remember that nurturing your inner life can become the most powerful beauty secret of all. How do you see the connection between inner spirit and outward radiance in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our community here at Spiritual Wisdom, where together we seek the timeless truths that awaken both soul and spirit. When an empath finally snaps, the moment light turns to shadow. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And for empaths, this truth carries a chilling weight, because the moment you reach your breaking point, light can turn to shadow. But here's the question: will you let that moment consume you, or will you transform it into power? In today's video on Spiritual Wisdom, we'll uncover what happens when an empath finally snaps, and how you can apply these lessons to your own life for greater strength, balance, and happiness. As you listen, I invite you to reflect. Have you ever felt your kindness pushed to the edge? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might be the one that helps someone else on their journey. 1. Jung's hidden warning. Carl Jung secretly recorded a frightening reality about empaths, a truth he described as a forbidden understanding of human consciousness. He observed that when empaths, those sensitive souls who spend their lives absorbing the pain and toxicity of others, reach the limits of what their hearts and minds can bear, something inside them shifts dramatically. It is not a simple breakdown, but a transformation, where their light, once nurturing and healing, begins to twist into a shadow that even they cannot control. For years, empaths walk as silent guardians, carrying grief that does not belong to them, soaking in rage and sorrow that others discard, believing that spirituality demands endless giving. They convince themselves that their ability to absorb the wounds of the world is their purpose, their sacred role. Yet Jung warned that no vessel, however noble, can carry such weight forever. The soul of the empath begins to crack under pressure, and when it finally snaps, the shift is violent and irreversible. This is the moment where compassion becomes bitterness, patience becomes fury, and silence erupts with words as sharp as knives. Jung called it terrifying because it is not mere fatigue, it is a profound alteration of consciousness. The empath, who once brought healing, now channels rage. The heart that once absorbed pain begins to reflect it outward like fire. Spiritual awakening, in its truest form, is not always gentle or graceful. Sometimes it arrives in the form of destruction, when the old identity collapses and the empath is forced to reclaim the pieces of themselves they had sacrificed for too long. It is as if their soul, once like a clear ocean, becomes polluted by all the suffering they have absorbed. When too much darkness seeps in, the waters churn into a storm, unleashing waves powerful enough to destroy anything in their path. Jung feared this storm because it reveals the empath's hidden shadow, the part of them that no longer protects others but retaliates against the world with precision. Their light becomes a weapon, and their love, once pure, is laced with vengeance. In this state, they embody the very darkness they once sought to heal, not out of failure, but because they have been pushed beyond endurance. This transformation is both terrifying and paradoxical, for within it lies not only collapse, but also rebirth. The snapping of the empath signals the end of blind sacrifice and the beginning of fierce self-preservation. It is here that they awaken to a deeper spirituality, one that integrates shadow instead of denying it. They no longer see their purpose as carrying the burdens of others. Instead, they realize that true healing begins when they protect their own soul. This revelation is the hidden gift in Jung's warning. The empath's snapping is not the end of their journey, but the emergence of sovereignty. They step into an authenticity that is no longer fragile, but balanced, forged by both light and shadow. They stop bleeding themselves dry for a world that never gave back, and they begin to wield their energy with intention, not sacrifice. Their spirituality is no longer about endless giving, but about living in wholeness, claiming their right to boundaries, power, and truth. And though the transformation may terrify them at first, it ultimately frees them, teaching that no human being, no matter how spiritual or compassionate, was ever meant to carry the suffering of the world alone. Are you ready to uncover Jung's hidden warning and embrace your true strength? If so, comment below, "I will awaken," to declare your commitment to this powerful journey of transformation. 2. The build-up to transformation. Years of sacrificing your own needs, of quietly absorbing the unspoken pain of others, and of becoming the place where everyone else's shadows are stored, eventually create a heavy reservoir deep within you, an invisible weight pressing against your soul. This is not weakness, and it is not failure. It is the silent preparation for transformation. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that is exactly what begins to happen when the empath reaches this hidden threshold. For so long, you may have thought your endless giving was the highest form of love. Yet your soul knows that giving without balance is not love at all, but slow erasure. And when the burden becomes too great, when your spirit can no longer contain what is not yours to carry, the breaking point arrives not as destruction, but as the first spark of spiritual awakening. A call to reclaim yourself and step into a deeper stage of spiritual development. For empaths, this breaking point often feels like snapping, but snapping does not mean cruelty or hardness. It is the moment when the light you have been projecting outward finally turns to meet the shadow within, and in doing so, awakens a fierce clarity. After years of carrying others, your soul rises and says, "No more." The floodgates open, like a river that has been dammed for too long, breaking its banks and carving new paths across the land. All the unspoken needs, ignored desires, and silenced boundaries surge forward, demanding to be recognized. What looks like anger is in truth the reclamation of self-respect. What feels like distance is the restoration of balance. And what the world might call selfishness is, in reality, the sacred act of honoring the flame within so it may continue to shine. This transformation can be unsettling because the empath often fears becoming cold or unkind. Yet what is happening is not the death of compassion, but its rebirth. You are learning that true compassion cannot exist when you are depleted, and that carrying the pain of the world is not the same as healing it. Jung understood that every light carries shadow, and every shadow carries light. And so the snapping is nothing more than the psyche's natural attempt to restore balance. This is where spirituality deepens. When you begin to see that self-sacrifice without boundaries is not holiness, but harm. and that protecting your own soul is the highest service you can offer to others. In this way, snapping becomes sacred, because it is the moment you stop confusing servitude with love and begin practicing authentic compassion. It is the moment when the empath finally realizes that boundaries are not walls, but gates that protect the sacred garden of the soul. From this point onward, you learn to give from fullness rather than depletion, from strength rather than exhaustion. The lesson is clear and timeless. Spiritual growth requires balance, and spirituality itself is not about losing yourself for others, but about bringing your whole self forward so that your love, your wisdom, and your light are real and sustainable. The value this journey offers you is profound. Your breaking point is not your end. It is your becoming. By embracing both light and shadow, you step into wholeness, and in that wholeness, you discover that self-respect and compassion are not enemies, but allies, guiding you toward the radiant, unshakable truth of your own spirit. 3. From light to shadow integration. At the breaking point, the empath's light does not disappear. It fuses with the shadow that has been waiting in silence, and together they create a self that is both deeply compassionate and fiercely aware of darkness. Carl Jung called this the empath's dark night of the soul, a passage where kindness is tested by reality and love must find its roots in strength rather than sacrifice. For years, you may have poured yourself out for others, believing that endless giving was a sign of intelligence and moral greatness. But Jung warned that true enlightenment does not come from clinging to light. It comes when you make the darkness conscious. Every empath knows the cost of carrying burdens that were never theirs to bear. You have likely felt the exhaustion of absorbing everyone else's pain, the quiet ache of sacrificing your well-being so that others could stand tall. Yet the more you suppress your own needs, the more powerful your hidden shadow becomes. The snapping point is when that shadow can no longer be denied, when it demands to be integrated, not as an enemy, but as a partner in your wholeness. Jung's spiritual wisdom shows us that the shadow holds our unclaimed boundaries, our suppressed power, and our unspoken truths. To reject it is to remain fractured. To embrace it is to finally become complete. This transformation is nothing less than alchemy of the soul. When the empath stops being only the giver and begins to embody both light and shadow, they move from silent martyr to wise guardian. No longer drained, no longer defined by sacrifice, they become a presence that can heal when healing is needed and protect when protection is necessary. Jung reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. For the empath, fate shifts at this moment. Boundaries emerge, self-respect strengthens, and compassion itself becomes sharper and wiser because it is no longer unconditional surrender, but conscious choice. The shadow does not destroy compassion. It deepens it. It teaches the empath to say no without guilt, to preserve their soul with sacred self-respect, and to offer love from a place of strength rather than depletion. What once felt like weakness is revealed as balance, and what once felt like collapse is revealed as rebirth. This is the privilege Jung spoke of when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Becoming who you truly are means you no longer fear the parts of yourself the world finds uncomfortable. Instead, you learn that your shadow is the guardian of your deepest power. The empath, who snaps is not broken. They are transformed. They are no longer the silent carrier of everyone's suffering, but the integrated being who knows the value of their light and the necessity of their darkness. This is the intelligence of spiritual wisdom, the realization that true awakening does not happen by denying one half of your nature, but by embracing both. In that union lies freedom, strength, and a love that is no longer fragile but eternal. Do you feel the power of this truth? If you do, write it with certainty in the comments. From light to shadow, I rise stronger. 4. The dark empath emerges. Transformed empaths gain what Carl Jung might call shadow empathy, a heightened spiritual intelligence that allows them to sense not only what could heal a person, but also what could dismantle them at the core of their psyche. This awakening emerges after years of carrying the burdens of others, absorbing wounds that were never theirs, and giving endlessly without reciprocity. When they reach the breaking point, they no longer embody only the light of compassion, but also the precision of shadow, becoming psychological shapeshifters who can navigate the dual forces of healing and destruction with unnerving clarity. Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And it is this integration of shadow into empathy that gives birth to a force both feared and revered. The dark empath is not simply a wounded healer turned bitter. Rather, they evolve into someone who understands the full spectrum of human consciousness, wielding both compassion and confrontation. They are capable of being the most profound healers, able to mend broken souls with extraordinary depth, yet also able to strip away illusions, facades, and manipulations that others hide behind. Like a surgeon who cuts with a blade not to harm, but to remove disease, the dark empath can use their insight to dismantle falsehoods and expose uncomfortable truths. This dual nature gives them power that is rare and unsettling, for they no longer operate within the boundaries of passive kindness, but instead embody a fierce clarity that refuses to be deceived or drained. Shadow empathy does not make them cruel. It makes them whole. By embracing both the light and the darkness within themselves, they become untouchable in ways they never were before. The empath who once existed only to soothe now learns to challenge, to confront, and to awaken others by reflecting not just comfort, but truth. In spirituality and spiritual awakening, this marks the critical passage from naivety to mastery, from unconscious sacrifice to conscious power. They are no longer just mirrors of love, they are mirrors of truth, holding up the reality others often fear to face. And in this confrontation lies transformation, for only by exposing what is hidden can genuine healing and growth occur. Thus, the dark empath stands as both healer and destroyer. Yet their destruction is never for cruelty's sake. It is the breaking apart of illusions so that something stronger, truer, and more aligned with the soul can take root. Jung understood the danger and the gift of such awareness, for to possess both light and shadow is to walk a razor's edge, always aware that intention determines whether one heals or harms. But when the dark empath chooses consciously, guided by wisdom rather than resentment, they embody the highest integration of human potential. They become living proof that real spirituality is not about rejecting the shadow, but about embracing it. Not about escaping pain, but about transforming it into a weapon of clarity and a tool of liberation. In this state, Empathy is no longer a burden. It is power, a force that can neither be deceived nor diminished, because it has tasted both the light and the dark and found strength in the union of both. 5. Not evil, but complete. Not evil, but complete. This is the deeper truth of what unfolds when an empath finally integrates their shadow. To many, the idea of embracing darkness suggests cruelty or corruption, but in reality, integration does not turn the empath into a sadist. Instead, it sharpens their vision and gives them surgical moral clarity, a rare ability to see with precision who must be protected and who must be confronted. You, as an empath, are not destined to be endlessly drained by manipulators or trapped in cycles of self-sacrifice. When you allow your journey of spiritual development to bring both your light and your shadow together, you step into a new strength that makes you both compassionate and unshakable. This clarity does not come from bitterness, but from wisdom. The kind of wisdom Carl Jung described when he warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." By confronting what was hidden in your own soul, you no longer act from weakness, but from grounded intelligence and spiritual wisdom. In this state, the empath becomes like a psychological immune system for human consciousness. Just as the body resists infection by strengthening its defenses, you begin to filter out toxicity rather than absorb it. You stop carrying burdens that were never yours to bear, and you learn to recognize deception before it poisons your spirit. No longer do you collapse under the weight of unreciprocated kindness. Instead, you stand as a living shield, protecting yourself and others from those who prey on innocence. Spirituality here is not a retreat into passivity, but a force that transforms awareness into action. True spiritual awakening reveals that compassion without limits is self-destruction, while power without compassion is cruelty, and the integrated empath learns to embody the balance of both. This balance awakens the archetype of the warrior of light within you. Spirituality is no longer confused with endless submission. Instead, it becomes the courage to set boundaries, to honor your worth, and to preserve your peace even if others cannot understand. In this space, your soul's growth no longer depends on pleasing others, but on aligning with truth. And truth, in its raw form, is not always gentle. Sometimes it cuts, sometimes it liberates, but it always heals. When you snap, you do not turn into darkness. You become whole, able to say no without guilt, to release relationships that diminish you, and to walk with strength that is steady, not aggressive. This is the essence of completion, not abandoning love, but refining it into something that is both kind and wise, both open and discerning. The shadow, then, is not your enemy, but your missing half. To deny it is to remain fragile, forever vulnerable to exploitation. To embrace it is to uncover a power that no one can diminish the authority of wholeness. Spiritual development asks for this wholeness, not perfection, because wholeness brings you closer to your authentic self. You are not here to be consumed by the wounds of others, but to transform your own suffering into strength and use that strength for good. In this way, your journey of spirituality and awakening becomes not just personal, but universal. A reminder that when one empath becomes whole, the entire collective consciousness becomes stronger. Wholeness is your true power, and through it, you not only protect yourself, but also safeguard the very spirit of humanity. Leave your like and subscribe to spiritual wisdom. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you won't miss powerful insights like this. Type in the comments, "I embrace my wholeness, not evil, but complete," to affirm your journey of integration. 6. Unprecedented power and responsibility. Carl Jung once warned that the greatest danger comes not from darkness itself, but from the unacknowledged shadow within us. And this truth becomes terrifyingly clear when we speak about the empath who no longer agrees to live only in the light. For too long, empaths have been conditioned to carry pain that was never theirs, to sacrifice their own needs for others, and to be the silent healers of wounds they never created. But Jung understood that such a one-sided existence could never last. When an empath integrates their shadow, they awaken to a higher level of intelligence that transforms them into something society has never been ready for. They begin to perceive hidden motives, subtle manipulations, and the quiet narcissism lurking in ordinary people. And suddenly, they can outmaneuver those who once thrived on exploiting their compassion. This transformation is not corruption. It is power refined through self-awareness, a spiritual wisdom that turns vulnerability into an unstoppable force. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people, Jung once wrote. And it is in this realization that the empath's true strength is born. By embracing both light and shadow, the empath ceases to be only the victim or the savior, and instead becomes a mirror of truth, reflecting back the illusions others would rather keep hidden. People may recoil from such a presence, not because the empath has grown cruel, but because deception no longer works in their company. The integrated empath becomes someone who can strip away the masks, who forces others to confront their own shadows, and who holds accountability where no authority has the courage or capacity to do so. This is a frightening kind of freedom, a spiritual awakening that does not flatter but reveals, that does not soothe but transforms. The responsibility that comes with such clarity is as immense as the power itself. To see through lies, to unveil manipulation, and to hold up the mirror of truth without mercy can be destructive if wielded without compassion. Jung feared this precisely because society often rejects those who can no longer be deceived, preferring to silence them rather than face what they reveal. Yet he also knew that rejecting truth never erases it. It only drives it deeper until it emerges again as an unavoidable event. And so the empath who finally snaps does not descend into darkness. Rather, they reclaim wholeness. They stop being the endless well of sacrifice and become the integrated soul who both heals and demands honesty, who nurtures yet also enforces boundaries. This is the moment of rare transformation when you, as an empath, are no longer merely absorbing pain, but actively reshaping reality with a kind of spiritual intelligence that no manipulator can twist and no authority can govern. You embody both compassion and strength, both light and shadow. And in that integration lies a power that is unprecedented. This is not vengeance, and it is not cruelty. It is the highest form of spiritual wisdom, a wholeness that society may resist but cannot ignore, because your presence itself becomes a catalyst for truth, awakening, and irreversible change. 7. A new stage of evolution. A new stage of evolution in the empath's journey is not collapse, but completion, a conscious harmony where light and shadow no longer oppose each other, but merge into wholeness. Carl Jung reminded us that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And in this truth, the empath begins to see that their endless giving, their years of carrying suffering that was not theirs, was never the full story of their soul. What arises now is a spiritual awakening in which shadow is not a threat, but a missing half, a force waiting to be integrated so that the empath can step into their true power. The realization comes slowly, like a veil lifting. Compassion without balance had drained them. Boundaries left unspoken had turned into chains, and their silence had been mistaken for weakness. But with awareness, everything changes. The empath discovers that both the power to heal and the potential to harm live within, and what defines the path ahead is how that power is used. If embraced wisely, this shift becomes a leap in human evolution, an ascension of spirituality where pain is transmuted into wisdom and empathy grows into sovereignty. If denied, the shadow erupts, uncontrolled and destructive, dragging them into the very darkness they once tried to escape. Integration is the key to the ability to see oneself not as a victim, but as a vessel of intelligence and spiritual wisdom, capable of carrying both light and shadow with grace. At this stage, empathy transforms into conscious responsibility. Protecting energy is no longer seen as selfishness, but as sacred necessity. Boundaries become bridges, not walls, preserving both spirit and dignity. This is individuation, the process Jung described as becoming whole by weaving together the conscious and the unconscious. Spirituality is revealed not as escape from darkness, but as the courage to walk with it, to turn suffering into strength and silence into clarity. The passage is not gentle. It feels like standing at the cliff's edge, knowing one must either leap or be pushed. Yet within that crisis, the empath finds an untapped fire, a hidden reservoir of strength forged through years of endurance. Sensitivity, once perceived as fragility, is reborn as the very tool of awakening. The shadow anger, exhaustion, resentment no longer binds them, but fuels their courage, transforming pain into power and power into presence. This transformation is not breakdown, but breakthrough. A recognition that every part of the self has value. Light teaches compassion, shadow teaches resilience, and together they form a wholeness that no storm can shatter. The shadow is not here to destroy, but to complete, to remind the empath that spirituality at its highest form is balance, not sacrifice, harmony, not division, truth, not denial. In this integration lies the true evolution of the empath, not just survival, but the conscious choice to live as a complete and awakened soul. Now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel yourself stepping into a new stage of evolution. Calm your mind, embrace your inner strength, and let your spirit expand beyond old limits. Repeat with me. I am evolving into my highest self. 8. The choice of the transformed empath. Once shadow empathy comes alive, there is no turning back to the old innocence, because the moment you sense the hidden layers of human behavior, you carry a responsibility that cannot be ignored. You stand before a choice that Carl Jung called his chilling insight. Whether you will use this psychological power to heal, to protect, and to enforce justice, or whether you will let it twist into indiscriminate destruction. For the empath, this is no longer about being endlessly kind or endlessly forgiving. It is about stepping into maturity, where sensitivity is sharpened into awareness, and awareness becomes the foundation of power. Shadow empathy reveals what lies beneath words, exposing patterns of manipulation, false promises, and unspoken wounds. It offers you the ability to draw boundaries without guilt, to protect without cruelty, and to speak truth even when silence seems easier. And yet, the temptation to use this power destructively always lingers. Because when you have been drained for so long, the hunger to strike back can feel irresistible. This is where spirituality must guide you, not as abstract theory, but as practical alignment. Spirituality becomes the compass that points you toward wholeness rather than fragmentation. And spiritual development is the training that teaches you to hold power without becoming consumed by it. If you choose the path of healing, your first task is to stabilize yourself, for no one can heal others from a place of chaos. You must learn to pause, breathe, and examine your motives with honesty, asking what outcome you truly seek and whether your action will create balance or perpetuate harm. If you choose the path of protection, you must practice the difference between boundary and punishment. Boundaries guard your energy with clarity, while punishment lashes out from unresolved pain. If you feel called to justice, you must remember that justice divorced from conscience becomes vengeance, and vengeance poisons the one who serves it. True justice is proportionate, transparent, and rooted in respect for life, even when it must be firm. This is where your empathy becomes not a weakness, but a force that restores order by refusing to enable deception, chaos, or abuse. To walk this path, you must develop a personal code. Tell the truth without cruelty, help only within healthy limits, disengage when your presence enables harm, and repair swiftly when you fall short. Give your empathy structure through simple rituals that anchor your nervous system, a few quiet minutes each morning, a reflection at day's end, or a weekly check-in where you realign with your values. When anger rises, treat it as a messenger, not a master. Listen to what boundary was crossed and what value was ignored, then respond with the smallest action that restores balance. When sorrow surfaces, let it release what you no longer need and teach you where forgiveness can open space for growth. And when destructive impulses appear, remember that the same power to end is also the power to edit, to cut away only what harms so that what is good can keep flourishing. The lessons for you are clear. Always choose intention before action, drawing on conscience as your guide. Honor boundaries over punishment, knowing that clarity is kinder than retaliation. Pursue justice with proportion and transparency. Keep daily rituals that ground you. Let anger and sorrow teach rather than control you. And live by a code that keeps your empathy aligned with wisdom. In this way, your journey of spirituality and spiritual development becomes the integration of light and shadow, teaching you that being an empath is not about endless sacrifice, but about becoming whole. Someone who can feel the storm without becoming the storm. Someone whose compassion is matched by courage, and someone whose power serves life rather than destroys it. And so, the chilling truth remains hidden in the shadows. What Carl Jung feared to speak too loudly about is now yours to reflect on. If this message has resonated with you, let it be a reminder that your light and your shadow are both part of your spiritual awakening. To continue this journey of discovery, make sure to like this video, share it with those who may need to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos, where we'll keep exploring the deepest layers of psychology, spirituality, and the wisdom that guides transformation.